We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
The door to the postseason is open for the Indians. Now it's time to break on through as they begin a season-long 11-game homestand. The offense has awakened at Progressive Field, led by Francisco Lindor and Michael Brantley, scoring 96 runs in the last 12 games as the Tribe has gone 10-2. Home is where the heart is, and home is where the Indians can get back into the postseason conversation. It all starts next on Sports Time Ohio. The Indians return home on a beautiful fall-like evening in downtown Cleveland to open up a huge homestand. It's the first of 4 tonight between the Cleveland Indians and the Detroit Tigers. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. The Indians have played really good baseball here of late, and one of the key guys who has pushed them forward has been Francisco Lindor. He's not playing like a rookie, Rick. He looks a lot like a veteran player. But when you talk about Rookie of the Year candidates, he's got to put himself in that conversation.
Without a doubt, this guy has been the spark plug for the Indians. Ever since he's been called to the big leagues, he's done it on both sides of the ball. Offensively, defensively, he's been running the bases very well. And it seems like he's in the middle of everything that's going on. He can hit from the left side of the plate. He can hit from the right side of the plate. Both very even. And defensively, he's right there. But there's some good candidates to go along with him. Carlos Correa, who's with the Houston Astros, 17 homers, 51 ribbies. Miguel Sano with the Minnesota Twins, 16 homers, 43 ribbies. And Osuna, the closer for the Blue Jays, has done a nice job, and he blew his first save against the Indians when we were back there in Toronto. But you look at those 4 candidates, still 3 weeks to go. Who knows what's going to happen?
And Lindor still currently leads rookies in American League batting average coming into play tonight. Well, our pitching matchup tonight is a rematch from 5 days ago. And on that day, it did not go well for Danny Salazar. It went really well for Alfredo Simon.
Well, for Danny Salazar, his first start of the year, he was able to beat the Tigers. Since that, he's lost 3 in a row, so he's got to try and do something different or make an adjustment to that Tiger lineup to go out there and try and get a win and keep his team in a ball game. But Salazar has the stuff. He was pitching well up until his last start. Alfredo Simon, on the other hand, he's had the number of the Cleveland Indians, 4-0 on the year. Every time he goes out there, he has been able to dominate with his curveball. He's got a good fastball. He also has a splitter. I don't know. Now the Indians, it's their turn to make an adjustment to Alfredo Simon and see if they can get to him early, because the big guy can struggle, and see if they can get his pitch count up there early.
Well, in addition to playing well overall, the Indians have also turned their fortunes around in series openers. When we come back, Andre Knott joins us to talk about why the Indians are suddenly winning Game 1 of a series.
Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by WB Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. the call. And Kipnis into second base with an RBI double. It's gone!
Go figure. He's turned into a power hitter.
He's out of room. It's out of here. Cody Allen, a career-high 30 saves on the year. All right, we welcome you inside Progressive Field. Big series begins tonight. Indians, Tigers. Tribe, 5 back in the wild card, needs to continue to win games, win series, and try to close the gap on the wild card front runners at this point. Let's go downstairs to Andre Knott. Hey, you know, it seemed like forever when the Indians could not win a series opener, and they were always fighting uphill. Why the sudden turnaround?
Defense. When you talk to Terry Francona, the other thing is they lost 10 of their first 11 series openers to start the season off. They've won 9 of their last 10. Defense is one of the things. And the other thing that Terry Francona talks a little bit about is the top of their order. He goes, you put 3 guys at the top of the order with 300 batting averages, it seems to change things. The other thing that they have to do at this point in time, 24 games left, 18 of them here at Progressive Field.
Yeah.
They've got to win them, and they've got to start winning more than just series. They may need a couple sweeps, and Terry Francona feels like it's the time to do it. He feels like his team is playing the defense that he's wanted to. He goes not just at shortstop and third base, but he goes also right field. What you've gotten from Chisenhall and what you've got from Abe Almonte in center field has changed how this team has played, and he hopes they can ride that out through this last 24.
Well, I like that number down at the bottom, 52-23. They've outscored their opponents here. That certainly helps. When they put 4 runs on the board for their starters, they're awfully good. And they've been playing great defense for a long time now, so it's been fun to watch. And I guess right now today, the big concern would be Danny Salazar on the bump.
How dangerous is a loosey-goosey Detroit team, really, with nothing to lose, playing a role as spoiler?
You know what? They didn't look very excited. You know, when we were in Detroit, they looked really down. Take advantage of them. These guys, they can be as loosey-goosey as they want. To me, they know they're out of it. I don't think they have much to play for. I don't think they care right now.
Well, they certainly didn't show a whole lot of fight when the Indians played them in Detroit, although they did get a terrifically pitched game from Alfredo Simon in the one game they won.
The one thing I do want to say, they can score. These guys are good hitters. You know, if you can take them out of the game early and disinterest that offense, you know, where they got to keep climbing back, and if they score, you go right back and punch them. I think the Indians will be in good shape.
Well, they've got to find a way first and foremost to score against Alfredo Simon. He's been very tough on the Indians for whatever reason. He's just had one of those years against the Tribe, and we'll see if they can turn that around here tonight. The Indians are about ready to take the field behind Danny Salazar, who will look to turn his luck around against the Tigers. In the meantime, we take a look at our Window Systems game time temperature. How about that? A crisp 73 degrees and not a cloud in sight.
Well, now this is September weather. This is what it is supposed to be like, and it's very refreshing out there. And here comes Danny Salazar, high socks and all.
No, the Indians take the field. Back here at home, but in front of a very small gathering. Let's take a look at the lineup Salazar will face tonight for Detroit. Under manager Brad Ausmus, brought to you by Toyota. Rajai Davis going to lead it off. Ian Kinsler batting second. Miguel Cabrera, he's only hit .509 against the Indians this year. J.D. Martinez, Victor Martinez, and Nick Castellanos in the middle. Brian McCann, Andrew Romine, and Anthony Ghost will round it out.
And tonight's Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher is going to be Danny Salazar. Salazar is making his 26th start. Record of 12-8, 354 earned run average. In his last start, took his 8th loss, 6-0 loss to the Tigers right here. He was matched up against Alfredo Simon as well. Gave up a couple of home runs, 2-run homer to J.D. Martinez, and a solo home run to Tyler Collins, who's not in the lineup tonight. So Danny's going to have to establish his fastball. He did not have it his last time. Everything was up in the zone and things were flat. So he's going to have to establish it early and see how that holds out. Let's check the defense behind him tonight. That is brought to you by Ram. It looks like this. Brantley is in left, Almonte center, Chisenhall over in right. Urshela at third, Lindor at short, Ramirez at second, Santana at first, with Gomes doing the catching.
Ed Hickox will call the balls and strikes. Paul Nart is at first base. Dana DeMuth, your crew chief, at second. Mike Estabrook is down at third.
Told you earlier, this will be the 5th start for Salazar against the Tigers this year. He is 1-3. And a 6.55, a high ERA. He won his very first start of the year and then has lost his last 3. So see if he can stop that tonight.
Well, Rick, you look back, and in particular those last 2 starts in Toronto and then in Detroit. It was like 2 different pitchers.
Yeah.
In Toronto, he was dazzling, overwhelming, one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in the American League. Then he went to Detroit, wasn't the same guy.
And the funny thing, they gave him extra rest for that start in Toronto because he had the flu and they had lost some weight and he came out. And on one time, Callaway had to go out and really talk to him to push him through that 6th inning, to get him to go 6 and 7.
The 0-1, up and away. I'm sure Mickey will keep a close eye on how this game unfolds early for Salazar.
It's all about commanding his fastball early.
Well, that's a good pitch right there. Didn't get the call, and it's 2-1. If he can keep it down.
That's right. You keep it right there in that spot and tighten it up. That did look like a good pitch.
Threw it right by him at 95 on the outside corner. Davis has hit .394, as you see there, against the Indians this year. But overall, a disappointing .247. Went away with a fastball again, and he just got a piece of it.
Well, hasn't been playing every day over there this year. He and Ghost have been sharing a lot of center field in a platoon system. But they're both in there tonight.
Yeah, tonight they're both in the lineup.
And, Davis he gets it going. If he can get on base, and he has had good games against the Indians to set the table for Cabrera, who's hitting third, and that's the key to this lineup. Keep him off base.
Upstairs, full count. The payoff, and a foul right back. Beautiful here, but already rained out in the Big Apple, Yankees Blue Jays.
Yeah, I see that.
Rain delay in Atlanta, and I think I saw one other game already rained out. Yeah, the Philadelphia, they're in a delay against the Cubs. Just missed, ball 4.
Well, he threw a couple of pitches inside that were very close.
Keys to the game are brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Oh, yeah, we're back on the 10 for 13. Yep. 10 hits in a 13th consecutive game is what the Indians are looking for at home. And for Danny Salazar, we talked about it, early urgency, and that's what Danny Salazar and Terry Francona will be looking for. Davis laid off a couple of borderline pitches.
Yes, he did.
And was able to get a walk.
It was a good at-bat.
Now Ian Kinsler.
And he's a guy that provides a little spark. He can run over there 18 out of 23 stolen bases.
Danny keeping a close eye on him. Gomes does a terrific job behind the plate, though, throwing out would-be base stealers. No run, and a swing and a miss by Kinsler.
Kinsler, a good fastball hitter. And you look at his second half, he got back to using the whole field like he did earlier in the year when we first saw him. And then he got away from it the second time we saw him in around June.
He was back to pull happy, huh?
Yeah, he got pull happy, and now he's going back using the whole field much more.
Chops it foul. Well, he's had a very good year offensively. Only Jose Altuve has more hits than Kinsler, who came in tied with Xander Bogaerts of Boston with 166 on the year, 3 behind Altuve.
And he's right up. He's leading the league in multi-hit games.
Little high, 1-2. Keeping a close eye on Davis, who gets back with a dive.
If you're sitting out there, Davis will be looking for that changeup to run on from Danny Salazar, because that ball has good downward movement, takes something off of it, and this could be that kind of count right now after that high fastball.
Runner goes.
And there it was.
Fouled by Kinsler.
There was the changeup. That's the pitch you want to steal on from Salazar if you can, because that pitch will go down, and it's tough for the catcher to go down there and stay with it. And that was certainly the changeup count. Kinsler did get a piece of it. He's battling now with 2 strikes.
Well, with a pitch to waste, not waste necessarily, but does he try to go up with a fastball, get him to maybe swing through it, and then you got a chance to throw him out?
He could, well, yeah, if he runs again now. He knew he was going that pitch.
He goes again. Kinsler lifts it to right field. Lonnie Chisenhall over into the corner, makes the catch. And back to first is Davis. So 1 out for Miguel Cabrera. Miguel Cabrera, 5.09 average against the Indians this year.
Well, that's down 100 points from when we last played him. He started, it was average 600 when we went to Detroit. So they did a good job against him there. Hopefully that continues.
Smashed in the left. And he's got a base hit as Davis stops at second.
He just loves to hit in this ballpark.
Yeah, he was just 1 for 11 against the Indians in their series in Detroit.
Yeah. But, I mean, he's ready to hit from the very first pitch. We see he's aggressive, and he takes it. That's a fastball he pulls in the hole. He is feasted in this ballpark this year.
Well, J.D. Martinez will be the batter. He's clobbered 36 home runs on the season. He's 4th in the American League in home runs. 6th in runs batted in.
Yeah, he hurt Danny in Detroit with a 2-run homer.
There's a ball hammered high in the air, deep center. Almonte back's going to stay in the yard. Going to make the catch. Davis going to tag and head for third. Here's a pretty good throw, and he just did beat it in there. So first and third, 2 down. And it will bring up Victor Martinez. Almonte got off a good throw there. And, Rick, if you're going to go, you better make it.
Well, yeah, you have to. Watch. He stays behind this ball. This is how you do it as an outfielder. He comes in, and he was looking, but he stayed behind it well, got a good throw off. It was right on the money. Davis, his speed just a little too much. Good throw. That's how you want to do it as an outfielder.
So with 2 down, Victor Martinez the batter. Victor, just a .236 average on the year. He was 3 for 11 in the series against the Indians in Detroit.
He served a couple to left field in one game. That's what you want to see him try and turn on it.
Easy play for Santana. Salazar gets out of the first. No runs, a hit, 2 men left. The Indians are coming to bat.
brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Jason Kipnis will lead off. He's the DH tonight. Francisco Lindor is second. Then it's Michael Brantley, followed by Carlos Santana, Lonnie Chisenhall, and Abraham Almonte. Yan Gomes batting seventh. Jose Ramirez, the big home run hitter, will bat eighth. And then Giovanni Urshela will hit ninth.
And Alfredo Simon is tonight's Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher. He is on the year 12-9. 4 of those wins have come against the Indians, where he's been 4-0. He's pitched brilliantly. He's got the fastball, a curveball, and a splitter that he will throw. And we'll see if in his last start it was 7 innings with just 2 hits allowed. He walked 4 and struck out 5.
If you look at what Simon has done against the Indians this year, he's allowed 1 run in his last 18 2/3 innings pitched against them, including 15 2/3 consecutive scoreless. But we'll see if 5 days can make a difference.
Well, this is where the Tribe offense has to make an adjustment against Simon.
What did you see in terms of a potential adjustment from what he did last time?
Remember we were talking about how he was pitching, that ball was going up and away, up and away. That was his splitter. But anytime he wanted to throw anything, he threw that curveball, and he commanded it for strikes anytime he wanted to. But he's going to have to establish his fastball for strikes, and right now he's behind in the count 3-1. This is a pitch that you want to watch as if you're a hitter, what he's going to try and throw behind in the count here.
Kipnis swings and pops it out of play.
He got himself a fastball.
He did walk 4 in that start against the Indians, but because they only allowed the 2 hits, and those 2 hits didn't come until the 6th and 7th innings, the walks really had no impact. Now the payoff pitch, and Kipnis socks it deep right but foul into the seats.
Well, he turned on that one.
Lindor waiting on deck, and then Brantley here in the first for Cleveland. The payoff pitch is popped out of play to the left. The Indians come in having won 10 out of their last 14 overall. 2 games away from the 500 mark. And a ground ball foul.
He's doing
the Indians,
a nice job staying alive.
Indians are a game and a half behind the Angels. And then you've got Minnesota, 3.5 back of Minnesota, and then Texas 5 back in that wild card hunt.
Well, Texas was beat earlier today, so they were shut out by Seattle.
Yeah. Okay. So they pick up a half game already.
That's about 5 foul balls from Kipnis. So this is a very good at bat to start the game off against Simon.
But he strikes him out. 1 away. Was that splitter again?
Yeah, that looked like the splitter to me. Let's check the defense behind Alfredo Simon tonight for the Tigers, brought to you by Ram. Davis in left, Ghost in center, J.D. Martinez in right, Castellanos at third, Romine at short, Kinsler at second, Cabrera at first, McCann doing the catching.
One down for Francisco Lindor. And he takes a strike.
Let's take a look at that. There it is. You see the split?
Yeah.
You can see how it is, and it runs away. And he started that one out high enough where it was going to stay in the strike zone, and there it is again. So that's a field pitch, and He didn't command that early in the game. That's why he walked 4 guys out in Detroit. But he's got a feel for it right now, it looks like.
The 0-2. And he chased it in the dirt, but it gets away.
He's going to reach.
And Lindor will get aboard. So a strikeout on a wild pitch, and the Indians have a base runner here in the first.
That was the curveball. So he reaches on the wild pitch. That's 12 now on the year from Simon. See, this one comes in, down and in. McCann couldn't keep it in front of him. By the time he retrieves it, you might as well hold it because Lindor was there. Went off his arm, didn't get his chest protector on it.
Now here's Michael Brantley. He went 1 for 4 with a double when he faced Simon in Detroit. Bounces this one to Cabrera. There's one. Back to first. Brantley beats him to the bag. So that'll keep the inning alive.
In between steps. Tough to lead the pitcher to first base. Cabrera got rid of it quickly. He did his job. By the time Romine gets it back, you'll see where Simon comes over there. And I don't know if his footwork was messed up. You see, he had to wait for him to get there. And by the time he does, Brantley's foot beats him to the bag. Good call.
First base umpire Paul Nart right on the call.
Yes, he was. Brantley's foot did get in there.
So, runner at first, 2 down, and Carlos Santana will be the batter. Santana's put together a solid season against Detroit. He's hit .302 against Tiger pitching with a homer and 10 runs batted in. Just underway, no score, bottom of the first. Over the outside part of the plate, barely. Carlos Santana had his 11-game hitting streak snapped in Detroit. It's the second longest hit streak he's had in his career. Hit hard and by Cabrera.
He didn't want any part of that ball.
Brantley will go to third, and Santana stops at first base. That ball was scorched down the line. Indians at the corners with 2 down.
That ball stayed up in the zone. Santana took advantage of it. First hit for the Indians. You check it out. There's that split that stayed right there. Didn't have that drop to it. Watch Cabrera. I don't blame him. That thing was by him in a hurry. Had to go to the backhand side and didn't want a whole lot of part to do with that one. So first and third now with 2 outs for the Tribe, and they'll have an opportunity to score here with 2.
Lonnie Chisenhall will be the batter. Since Chisenhall got called up, he has been a terrific addition to this offense. But now he's mired in the first real slump he's had since getting called back. And that's going to extend it to 0 for his last 13. Indians threaten they do not score. Scoreless after 1 in Cleveland.
Live Indians baseball season long with MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. You can stay connected with live radio broadcast, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
For Detroit here in the second inning, Nick Castellanos will lead it off. Danny Salazar misses low, 2-0. On the year, Castellanos just 7 for 48 against Cleveland pitching.
He looked like when we were in Detroit, he was swinging the bat much better. Had some pretty good at-bats in that series.
Bullseye on
Good
the outside
pitch.
corner. Just off the outside edge, and now he's behind 3-1.
Let's check this out on our Nissan pitch tracker. That ball just off the outside edge. He's been off the inside edge and the outside edge just by a hair.
That's right to Lindor, who bobbles it, tries to recover, still got him. Holy smokes, what a play by Francisco Lindor, who initially looked like he was going to turn a routine bouncer into an error. Then he made an acrobatic grab off the bobble and threw him out anyway.
Yeah, it just flipped up out of the glove, but I'll tell you what, he didn't hesitate. He jumped on it like a cat and just did get Castellanos at first base. So way to stay with it. Almost looked like it hit his bare hand before it went into his glove.
Tell you what, there's a moment in that super slow-mo replay we just showed you there that I think tells you why the good ones are different than everybody else. After he bobbled that, did you notice how he was going to go after it, but then he waited till the ball bounced, and then got the perfect grip on it? If he would have hurried and tried to go after, he would have swatted it away.
He may never have picked up the ball.
Exactly. That's called don't panic.
It's called concentration.
Take your time.
Yeah, right.
Still got time to make the play.
But I'll tell you what, I bet his heart just skipped a beat there.
Maybe it didn't. Maybe that's why he's so good. At the knees, a strike to McCann. Watch again.
See if it hits his hand.
It does, but
Comes out.
now he's gonna swat at it like, oh no, wait, and then just calmly execute. McCann takes. It's 2-2. McCann coming off a good offensive series against Tampa Bay, in which he went 5 for 9 against the Rays.
Well, this young man's having a nice year from behind the plate. He's turned into a really pretty good defensive catcher. First year getting a chance to come back there every day.
Foul third base side. Our player profile brought to you by Levin Furniture. He was a second-round pick out of Arkansas by the Tigers 4 years ago. He was up for the Johnny Bench Award.
How about his first major league home run and inside the Parker?
Probably not many catchers can make that claim.
Yeah, well, yeah, not many people can make that claim. Let alone a catcher. Oh, boy, that ball, the last two have been so far inside, and he's still been able to get a piece of them. That ball did not look like it had any part of the plate.
Rick, the one thing I'm noticing here at the outset is that Danny Salazar is not getting many swings and misses.
A lot of foul balls. He's staying basically with his fastball right now, and they just saw it 5 days ago.
He only struck out 1 in 3 2/3 the last time he faced him. But for a guy who is a power pitcher and has struck out a lot of guys this year, Tigers seem to be at least on him.
A lot of fastballs to this point, which he's trying to command it. That was a good pitch down and away, but he was able to foul it off. Here comes an off-speed pitch. All right, he went for it. Yes, coming back to it. That was a foul ball. That looked like a slider to me. He's just trying to get a feel for everything right now.
Well, they're driving up his pitch count in a hurry. This will be the 11th pitch of the at-bat.
Yeah, Davis started the game off with a tough one. There you go. Heater away. Missed.
Full count. Payoff pitch. Another foul ball.
Well, he's done a nice job. He is making Salazar work. He can't get one by him.
Another foul ball.
Where was that? I'll tell you what, there's a game years ago with Bartolo Colon pitching. I think there was about a 13 or 14 foul balls in an at-bat before Colon finally won the battle.
I could see that because he was a guy early in his career. Just here it comes.
Well, he still does. Fastball. He's got good movement on it, but right now that's exactly what's going on with Salazar. It's fastballs and it's foul balls.
Well, after you shake off about 4 times, I understand why the hitter steps out.
Yeah, well, he's sitting in there a little too long.
He's probably going, you don't have that many pitches.
No. Well, it's coming with something off speed.
And he lays off.
It's a great at-bat.
Second walk by Salazar.
He went back with that changeup, and it's his second walk. Did a nice job of holding up. See that changeup down? It's a really good at-bat for him. He got to see a number of pitches in that at-bat. So if Salazar's still around, he'll be looking forward to that second one. Saw just about everything he had.
Well, Andrew Romine, switch hitter, bats 8th with 1 on, 1 out, and he takes a strike outside corner.
Romine has played everywhere in the infield this year for the Tigers.
Slow chopper by Ramirez. McCann stops at second. He had a notion about going to third. He would have been a dead duck.
But you see those legs start slowing down. He realized, okay, I better not. Well, this ball just gets under the glove of Ramirez there at second. I thought he was going to have a chance. It's down and in. Left-handers like it down there, but he pulled it. And just under the glove.
Now Salazar gave up a walk and a hit in the first. He's given up a walk, a hit here in the second. An inauspicious start, to say the least. as Anthony Ghost steps in with Rajai Davis in the on-deck circle now. Indians looking for a big start tonight from Salazar. He's still trying to find it, and this will be 38 pitches already on the night. That gets by Ramirez. Coming around third, they're going to wave McCann home. Chisenhall's going to throw to the cutoff man. Santana's got it. They've got the runner in a rundown as Lindor chases Ghost back. Now they got to get somebody to second base. They'll tag him out. Here's a throw to the plate, and he's safe. Safe is the call, and Yan Gomes looks to the dugout as if to say, I think we had him. This could be a critical play because it could mean the inning over and only one run for Detroit.
I think he got his foot in. And that throw was from Chisenhall, the right fielder, that came in to Gomes. I'll tell you what, Ghost made a mistake going to second base because the throw was low enough, but he got into a rundown and allowed the runner to score. Romine, and
you're going to take a look.
I think he is, or he's going to talk to him about something. See, does Gomes have the ball there?
He never got the plate. I don't think.
That throw's coming in from Lonnie. Can't see. Oh man, that's where. See, Davis is right there doing his job. The umpire's right there, so
they're going to take a look. Rick,
okay.
I don't think he ever got to the plate. He's out. Oh, he got him on the back leg. As soon as he started his slide, Gomes with a tremendous pick on that throw. Watch the glove get the back leg before the foot gets to the plate.
Boy, it looked like it from that view, didn't it? See, look at Gomes look right down, and then he looked into the dugout. He felt like he had him, so this is going to be interesting.
And that's not a case where Gomes was, preemptively blocking the plate. The throw took him that way.
No, he didn't try to block it. That's the only thing he could do right there. We'll see if that's going to be enough evidence to turn it over.
Dana DeMuth has his back to us. That's the crew chief. Ed Hickox, who made the call, is the home plate umpire. He's looking at the
He's trying to get the umpires to move so Salazar can throw. Here's slow motion. That's the best look we got, huh, guys? Let's see. There's the catch.
Yeah, he's out.
It looks like it from there. It sure does. Looks like he gets that back leg that's bending as he goes into his slide before that front foot gets to home plate. They will have one run in. Yeah, I think that angle there shows it. Everybody's waiting to see. They're looking up at the board. It's not an easy call. But Gomes' glove looks like it gets his back leg. And that throw, that's what you get. Chisenhall made the throw, and after the rundown, hustled his way into the infield there to get part of the rundown and ends up making the throw to Gomes, and hopefully it could be the double play.
Well, Rick, it looked like something was off a little bit in the rundown because once Lindor gave up the ball, there was nobody at second base.
Right.
All right, looks like they're coming to a conclusion. And
they got to call them out, don't they?
You would think so.
Yes.
Yes, sir. That'll end the inning. Tigers get a run. They do not get two. And more importantly, Salazar's out of any further trouble. Now, Brad Ausmus has come out. He's going to ask them potentially about Gomes blocking the plate, but I don't think he's got an argument here. The inning is over. That play goes 9-6-3-9-2. Lonnie Chisnall ends up with 2 assists on the double play.
Yeah, they cut that one. And they get the throw. Here comes Ramirez. Now he's starting for home. Romine's going in there. Ghost is tagged out. And then they overturn that call for that double play. Well done.
Actually, that's not right either. We missed Ramirez gets an assist in there, too, because he was on that.
What was it? 9-3-6-4-9-2.
That's it.
I don't have enough room on my card for that. Bingo.
How many times have you ever seen a guy get 2 assists on the same play?
Never. Not that I can recall. He did a heads-up job of just continuing into the infield.
Really did.
He followed it up. It was a really heads-up play on Lonnie's part.
Is that his infielder instincts just kind of taking
Why would
over?
you? Well, you should always be moving. But once he threw it and then Santana cut it, there's nothing for him to do. So why not follow it in? And he sees he's in the rundown. He can come over here and back up first base.
Brad Mills talking to him about that play.
Yeah, that's a weird play, but Ghost did a nice job. He made a mistake going to second when they cut the ball to begin with because they had their run. Then he did a nice job getting in the rundown to allow. Let me see, who was it?
He almost allowed Romine to score.
Right. He gave him the opportunity.
Abraham Almonte is called out on strikes. Already 3 Ks for Alfredo Simon.
You see, there it was, the tag and then the throw. And then the infielder came out in him right there, you know. It was a nice pick by Gomes as well to be at that play. Well done. After we look at it for the 15th time.
Well, going back to Andre's comments, you know, when we started the telecast, why have they been playing better in series openers? You know, defense is one of the things. They've played better defense. Top of the order offensively, but that was a terrific play defensively. Gomes bounces it to short. 2 down. Another reason the Indians have been playing well at home and in series openers is the offense, in particular here at Progressive Field. Last 12 home games, they've gone 10-2 with a .355 team average, and they're averaging 8 runs a game.
It doesn't hurt to average 8 runs a game.
You better win 10 out of 12.
But, you know, they're hitting with runners in scoring position. They turned it around. We've been waiting for them to do it here all year long.
And a smash to short. The Indians go 1-2-3. And after 2 innings, it's Detroit 1, Cleveland nothing.
Tigers tomorrow night, and only $3 dog nights remain, so you better come on out and get them while they're hot. Dollar dogs all night long with post-game fireworks presented by Wayside Furniture. Go to Indians.com for the tickets.
So John Krepop, our illustrious statistician tonight, has informed us that according to the Major League Baseball rules, the scoring rules, no fielder can get more than one assist on any putout. So
Okay.
Lonnie,
No matter how many outs there were.
no matter how many times he touches the ball, he gets one assist. There's Popper.
There, well, he's the man we got to call into the booth, right?
Right here.
When we need the rows like they do it in the NFL. Popper's our guy.
He's Mike Pereira.
Yeah, right.
There's-
He is. Look at him hiding back there. He knew we were going to get him on. Don't hide behind the windows, for God's sakes. We're trying to get you some airtime. John's been here since
Longer than you?
1925 here with the Indians.
There's a fly ball to right field. And Lonnie will settle under this one. Out number one here in the third. Well, from the man high in the booth to the man low on the field, let's go to Andre Knott.
Shark skin.
Low in tenure, too. I didn't know he might have been here longer than Arch. Talking about Danny Salazar a little bit. You know, I know we talk about fastball and getting over the plate, guys, but, you know, the consistency in his off-speed pitches has been his problems in his last few bad starts because he's had a lot of good ones in a row. But when he's told me when he doesn't have a feel for his off-speed stuff is when he has to rely on the fastball, and it's almost like he's losing instincts in throwing it at times when he doesn't have a feel for it early on.
Well, we can tell he doesn't have a feel for the off-speed pitches because you were seeing so many fastballs tonight. And the change-ups or breaking balls he's trying to throw, they're all in the dirt.
No 1-0.
At least to this point. Oh, got a piece of the bat. Good break.
No 1-1. Broke the bat. Ball went one way, bat went the other.
And he still has the handle in his hand. I'll trade you. I don't think I can get much of a hit with that. Look at that. That's not even good for kindling wood.
The 1-2 pitch. Just foul. Urshela was ready to unload just in case.
Boy, it wasn't foul by much.
No.
He was right on it, though. Yeah, it was that good call right there. Just by a ball width. Right offside the third base.
Salazar's 1-2. Popped him up. Out goes Jose Ramirez, calling for it. Now called off, and Lonnie Chisenhall is there, 2 away.
It's all right. Good job. Call him off.
Up comes Miguel Cabrera, who singled his first time up.
Yeah, there you see his numbers here in this ballpark. Only 696. Oh, it's going to go down.
Urshela lobs it over, and the inning is over. So Danny has his best inning so far. Tigers go 1-2-3, no score, or rather, Tigers lead it 1-0, middle of the third. one to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Bottom of the third, Giovanni Urshela, Jason Kipnis, and Francisco Lindor due up for the Tribe. They continue to find a way. They continue to look for a way, rather, to solve Alfredo Simon. Urshela drives one toward left center field. And that is going to be off the wall. And it skips by Gose. And Urshela into second base with a leadoff double. A wall ball for Urshela to start the third for Cleveland.
Started him off with a curveball, and Gio was ready for it. There you'll see it, up, out over the plate, gave him a little swinging room, and we haven't seen many of those tonight. That might have been only the second one. He's had a good splitter, but he started Gio off with the hook, and it comes off the wall. So Urshela, his 6th double of the year.
Now Jason Kipnis, who had a terrific at bat his first time up, looking forward to round 2 here. He ended up striking out on a splitter that just kind of hung and floated by him up in the top part of the zone.
Yeah, he fouled off about five or six 3-2 pitches.
Jason has batted .302 against Detroit pitching this year. But he wants to try to get Urshela to third one way or the other here. Not showing bunt and missed inside 2-0. Now see, this is something they weren't able to do against Simon in that start in Detroit. Get your leadoff man, get him in a scoring position, and maybe put some pressure on him.
I mean, right center field is wide open for Kipnis. You look where Gose is playing in center. He's way over in left center field like a right-handed pull hitter. And look at the gap.
Let's go down to Andre with more on what the Indians missed out on against Simon the last time they faced him.
Terry Francona felt like they left him off the hook early. He said, look, when he doesn't have that splitter really going or his off-speed pitches, we let him off the hook 2 of the times that we've seen him this year. So he really told him early in the game, you've got to attack him because before he gets a feel for his stuff, they feel like they can hit him, and they haven't so far this year.
The 2-0 almost got him on the foot. 3 balls, no strikes.
Yeah, he has a feel for his splitter today. At least he did in the first couple innings. Now he was trying to power his way through it.
Four straight, and Kipnis draws a walk. Our stat of the game brought to you by Buick. And as you take a look at Alfredo Simon this year, 4-0, 150 ERA against the Indians. The last pitcher to win 5 in a game against Cleveland. How about early win with the White Sox in 1959?
6-1.
And Duke Boss did it the same year. Last Tiger was Hal Newhouser in 1950. So it's been a long time. And the Indians are hoping that doesn't happen here tonight.
We'll see if the Tigers remember that what happened against Verlander, first and second bunt situation.
Well,
I feel he's going to bunt here, no question.
They're looking. They're pinching. He bunts it, gets it down. Simon will go to first, and Lindor is out number 1 on the sacrifice.
No, does his job. Did it this time on the first pitch. That's his 12th. Give Brantley a chance now to base hit, and they could take a lead.
Well, Michael has a half dozen runs batted in against Detroit this year. 78 on the season altogether. Base hit here should get him to 80 and give the Indians the lead.
He's 11 out of 22 against Simon in his career, so Brantley's been the best as far as getting base hits off this guy.
You know, and he went after the first pitch his first time up. Bounced it over to first base.
I think he was trying to hit that hole between first and second with Lindor on first. Good
and
pitch.
A fastball on the inside corner for strike one.
Yeah, you go that inside of boy, and that's right there. That's a great pitch right on the inside corner. Pitcher makes that pitch, you say, okay, that's fine. You got it. Don't think he can make 2 or 3 of those in a row, though, in there. Because you don't want to make a mistake in there. Brantley loves the pitch down and in.
And he fouls that off. Puts himself in an 0-2 hole now. Lonnie Chisenhall, Yan Gomes talking things over. Indians with an opportunity here. Second and third, 1 out. Brantley with Carlos Santana on deck. Tying run Urshela at third. Go ahead run Kipnis at second. And a sky-high pop on the infield.
Tell you what a sequence by Simon right there. Get one of the better hitters in the game, and he stayed in there twice. Started him off in there, threw a split away, and then came right back in and did not give him any breathing room. This one was elevated. So he gets the second out here. Good pitch. Well, now the Indians are going to have to do it with 2 outs.
Carlos Santana whistled a hard hit ground ball past Miguel Cabrera at first in the first inning. Santana's been a better RBI man of late. He has driven in 21 in his last 31 games.
He's been good in this situation too. 2 outs. Runners in scoring position. Leads the team in that department. Don't want to make a mistake here. He worked hard to get that second out. Trying to keep a goose egg.
25 2-out RBIs for Santana this year. High pop, shallow right. Kinsler is there, and the second baseman makes the catch, so the Indians let him off the hook. Leadoff double dies at third. 1-0 Tigers after 3. Weekend's season opener between the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets. Join Jim Donovan, Doug Deacon, Tony Grossi tonight following Indians Live right here on Sports Time Ohio. J.D. Martinez fly to center, his only time up. High fly ball, left field, well hit, but Brantley is back shy of the track, and he'll make the catch, one away.
10,000 fans will get a very unique bobblehead Saturday night. The Indians will take on the Tigers. It's manager Terry Francona on his scooter, courtesy of Meritech. Check Indians.com for your tickets.
It's pretty realistic, too. Outside, ball one. Victor Martinez grounded out his only time up. Martinez trying to plug the gap. Lonnie Chisenhall trying to run it down, and he does. Outstanding effort by Chisenhall on a really good route for a guy who's still learning the nuances of the outfield.
Yeah, he covered some ground out there on the backhanded side, making a very nice running catch right before the warning track. It's one of the better balls we've seen Martinez hit. On the run, there you go. Good play.
Nick Castellanos grounded out his only time up in the second inning. Out of play. Danny Salazar set him down 1-2-3 in the third. He's trying to do it again here in the fourth. Blew it right by him, 2-2. Oh, he struck him out with a beautiful off-speed pitch. His first strikeout of the night. He has set down 6 Tiger hitters in a row, but Detroit still leads it 1-0. Strongest Fan photo to us using the hashtag STODataStrongFan for a chance to have one of your pictures featured in an upcoming telecast. It's all courtesy of T-Mobile. Lonnie Chisenhall going to lead off in the bottom of the fourth.
Lined out to center field his first at bat. I think it was on the first pitch.
Takes a strike. Off-speed pitch, and Lonnie fouls it into the glove. Ball's behind 1-2. And he chases one in the dirt.
Yeah. Went out of the strike zone, got him to go after it.
Time for a Mazda game break now. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Hey, Matt, Rick, the Pittsburgh Pirates are within 4.5 of St. Louis right now in the Central. They're the top wild card seed over in the National League, but they're losing tonight to the Brewers. Thanks to Chris Davis. Look where he hit that home run. His 19th of the year. It's 3-0 Milwaukee, 5th inning, guys.
All right, thanks, Al. Abraham Almonte called out on strikes his only time up in the second inning. Upstairs with it, 2-0.
Wants to get a new baseball. Hey, we'd like to send out a very special happy birthday wish to Ferris Ohl of Tiffin, Ohio, who is turning 101 today. His great-granddaughter Harper turns 2. And Ferris and Dorothy have been married for 73 years. How about that?
That is outstanding.
Congratulations. Happy birthday.
He tunes in to every game.
He was out to dinner tonight.
Well, you got to go out and celebrate once in a while.
Yes, indeed. But he had to be back in time to watch the ball game.
Well, hopefully the Indians can get some offense going to cap off his birthday, but unfortunately right now it's Alfredo Simon who's been doing the celebrating. 19 consecutive innings scoreless streak for Simon against the Indians.
He's just had their number this year for whatever reason. That's how you go 4-0. You get every break, and right there, Simon or Almonte had a good pitch to bunt off Simon. It was that little splitter, but he fouled it off. Coming back with it again.
Back out of play. Stays 3-2. Almonte puts a charge into a ball to deep right field. Gone to Souvenir City. Abraham Almonte's 4th home run of the year ties the game in the 4th inning.
Well, he didn't miss that one. That looked like it was a split that stayed up as well. He didn't give him the fastball, but he hit it like it was a fastball. And he ties it up at 1. Look at that. Down and in. He knew it as soon as he hit it. Simon came back and he gave him just too much swinging room with that splitter. And we have a new ball game. Almonte is 4th homer. So that string is over.
And now Yan Gomes, a one-hopper to Cabrera, who's going to beat him to the bag for out number 2. Our great clip of the game. Jose Ramirez has homered in back-to-back games. He's one of only 3 Indians to do it this year. The other 2 guys are the guy who just homered, Abraham Almonte, and Francisco Lindor.
The power hitter.
The 3 guys who've done it, and none of them have been here that long. Lindor came up in June. Ramirez started the year here and then went back. And Almonte, of course, just came early August. So these guys have all had an impact on the ball club. And Almonte is a guy, you talk about the guy who was probably most under the radar of those people, who's had a really good impact on this club. He's playing a premium position in center field. He's run the bases very well. He's been able to bunt. He's played good defense.
5 triples.
Yeah. I like how he tells Andre after he interviews him next time in Spanish. Line drive toward the gap. That's trouble. Ramirez can't fly. He's going to head for 3 on this baby. Nope. Changed his mind. You know what, Rick? It looked like his steps might have got messed up going into second base a little bit.
He was probably looking at the ball and not looking at his angle and making that decision. You know, with 2 outs, though, you can't get thrown out. You have to make it to third base. He drills the gap in right center field, and he's thinking third. But you have to make sure you're in scoring position. So he sees him pick it up, and then he decides, I'll stay. You know, it's not a bad play. Still in scoring position. Stay with the double. Can't get thrown out at third. That's his 9th double of the year. Give Urshela an opportunity, who doubled in his first at-bat.
Gio hammered one off the wall and left. And that's doing something because right-handed hitters haven't had a lot of success. They've only batted .234 this year.
Hit him
against Simon, and he drills Urshela. Where did he get him, on the hand or the wrist?
I think it was the hand or the forearm.
Might have been the forearm.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He's looking down in between the elbow right there.
Looked like a 2-seamer that just kept running.
Oh, yeah, right on the
forearm shiver.
Yes, indeed. And he had to get out of the way for Simon. That's his 4th batter he has hit this year. But keeps the inning going, gives Kipnis an opportunity.
So 2 on, 2 out for Jason Kipnis, who struck out in the first, walked in the third. Tried to hold up, but he went around, says third base umpire Mike Estabrook. 1-1 ball game now here in the fourth inning after the home run by Abraham Almonte. Now the Indians looking for that elusive 2-out RBI hit. They had a chance in the first, a chance in the third, but could not come through. Another opportunity now here in the fourth. You have to be able to hit, you have to be able to get on base. But when you can do those things and you have speed like Almonte, like Ramirez, like Lindor, like Kipnis even, I mean, it makes it a really fun brand of baseball to watch. You can put the pressure on the defense.
I love 2-out base hits, and that's something they've been doing very well at home.
This one's right at Kinsler, though. And the inning is over. Tribe ties the game on a home run from Abraham Almonte. 1-1 through 4. Brought to you by your Northern Ohio Honda dealers, by the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. One ball game. We are in the fifth inning. Brian McCann, Andrew Romine, and Anthony Gose due up for Detroit, bottom third of the order. But this is where Danny ran into trouble in the second. He walked McCann, who came around to score the first run of the night. And then his defense bailed him out, turning a very unusual double play to end the inning.
Well, this is where you want to shut him down after you come back and score.
James McCann bloops one to right. It's a base hit.
Remember, he had that great at-bat in his first at-bat, and I said it'll suit him well. He jumps on that first pitch and starts it off with a base hit. So they're going back to work. It was McCann who scored the run back in the second inning.
Andrew Romine, now 6 out of 25 against the Indians pitching that he has faced this year. Urshela in on the grass at third. Out of play. Oh, nice block by Gomes in the dirt. You know, this is already the 9th 4-game series of the year for the Indians, and they have 2 after this.
Yes, they do.
And
they have one following with Kansas City and then one with Minnesota.
They've done really well, going 5-1 with 2 splits.
You know, that's hard to win a 4-game series. You got to win 3 out of 4. You're right. They have done very well.
Good pitch, and he strikes him out. Second K for Salazar. One down in the 5th.
Both strikeouts coming on the changeup. Right there. Romine couldn't pull the trigger. We'll make this our Circle K strikeout. This was a higher pitch. It just stayed up. You know, it almost looked like a knuckleball.
Sure did.
You know, it
Didn't
stayed
have a lot
up
of spin.
there. No, it did not. But that's what happened. That one, that's getting a feel for it. But it stayed there. It stayed in the strike zone. I think that's why he didn't pull the trigger. He saw it so high.
Now Anthony Gose. He had the RBI single in the 2nd, but then made the mistake of rounding too far around first, and the Indians got him on a rundown, and that started the downfall of the Tigers in that 2nd. Two and 0. To left field. And Brantley makes the catch, 2 down. Injury report tonight brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. For Detroit, pitching, their closer Joe Nathan went down a long time ago. Anibal Sanchez, right shoulder problem. Jose Iglesias fractured a finger trying to bunt recently. They lost Miguel Cabrera for a chunk of the season, but that was earlier. Two down, runner at first. Rajay Davis the batter. Wow, oh, that was smoked right back up the middle.
He was waiting for it right out of the chute, wasn't he? So he hits one right back up the middle. That's hit number 5 and number 1 for Davis.
2 hits in the inning, both coming on the first pitch.
Yeah, he was waiting for that. Slightly open stance. You see Salazar ducking. It gets into center field. It'll give Ian Kinsler an opportunity now with 2 outs. They're trying to come back and answer the run that the Indians put on in the bottom half of the 4th. It's always a big inning. Keep that momentum going in your direction if you can put a 0 on the board, and you don't want that guy on deck coming up next.
Ian Kinsler both times tonight has flied to right.
He's been behind both times in his first 2 at bats.
Indians held Kinsler to a 2 for 9 in that series in Detroit. And he smokes this one to right field. Lonnie Chisholm flying over, makes a nice catch. Darting toward the line. Lonnie robs Kinsler of extra bases and keeps this game tied at 1. The Madison Blue Streaks will take on the Perry Pirates in a non-conference county showdown as the high school football road to glory rolls on. Join Jeff Phelps, Frank Stams, and Ryan Cavanaugh tomorrow night at 11 on Sports Time Ohio. I can't believe it's Friday already.
It is.
Seemed like we were just talking about Friday night football.
We were last Friday. But we're home this Friday.
Francisco Lindor leading off for the Tribe. And a bouncer foul. Bounces this one to short. Romine slings it over. One away. Our in-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. It started in the second. An RBI single by Anthony Gose. And then things went a little haywire. Gose was tagged out. And then they got Romine on the replay challenge to end the inning. Stayed that way until Almonte tied it in the fourth with a home run. Abraham has hit 4 home runs, 5 doubles, 5 triples on the year for Cleveland.
Simon did a really good job against Brantley in his last at-bat when he had an opportunity. Second and third and 1 out. Tied him up, pitched him in, started him off in, went splitter, and then came back in.
Yeah, Miguel Cabrera will go himself. 2 down. Carlos Santana singled in the first. He popped up on the infield in the third inning. Upstairs. Good breaking ball.
That's a pitch that was effective for him in his last start. Was the curveball. Good pitch.
A little bit low. Swing and a miss. And it's 2-2.
Comes back with the curveball again, and Santana's going to swing and miss again over the top.
Not going to get him to chase that one. And a full count.
Count stays 3-2. Upstairs, he walked him with 2 outs to keep the inning alive. Ronnie Chisnall's made a mark on this game defensively. This was a fine catch running in the gap.
That's going to his right and now going to his left. That ended last inning.
And then, of course, he had the presence of mind to get involved in the play that short-circuited a Tigers rally in the second inning and ultimately threw out the runner at the plate. Runner was going, and that ball's hit to deep left field. What a catch by Davis on the dead run. So the inning is over. And we'll go to the 6th. Indians, Tigers still deadlocked at 1. Before we roll to the 6th inning, let's go down to Andre Knott, who has the very latest on what's up with Corey Kluber.
Well, there was a beautiful sight when I walked into the ballpark today. It was Corey Kluber down left field, warming up, stretching, running. He threw from about 135 feet today. He will have a bullpen session tomorrow. And tomorrow, about this time during the game, I should be able to tell you when he will start. If everything goes well and his leg feels good after the bullpen tomorrow, there's a chance within the next week we'll see Corey Kluber back on the mound for the Indians.
That'll be good news.
Wow, Salazar, just here we go. Challenge City, 95 miles an hour. Good off-speed pitch, and Cabrera got a piece of it. No balls, 2 strikes. 1-1 our score. We're in the 6th. Now the 0-2 offering. Good fastball. Cut off by Ramirez. And he'll throw him out 1 away.
Well, it went fastball away. Strike one. There's that little change up down. He missed, and then he hits this one right back up the middle.
J.D. Martinez flied to center in the first, flied to left in the fourth. And he chases one.
He's been going chasing everything that's up about belt high. So you can go ahead and throw another fastball, try and get it up there.
Popped him up, foul, and into the seats. Oh, he strikes him out. And you're right, Rick. He keeps it above the belt, and Martinez can't lay off tonight.
Keep it up there. That's the third strikeout for Salazar. That's the pitch he sees the best, you know, and he's had issues, and he struck out a lot against Salazar. But he keeps it above the belt, and he comes up empty. So that's out number 2 here in the 6th.
Hard to tell if that was just a fastball or a slider that he just cut off of, maybe?
I don't know if it was a slider. It might have been a changeup that stayed up there again.
Victor Martinez. Now there's your fastball at 95. That previous pitch that he struck Martinez out with was at 91. So just sometimes it comes out of his hand, maybe with a little tilt, and it just cuts a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not an intentional cutter, but that's the end result. Whatever the case, he got him to swing and miss, and now he's got Martinez quickly in the hole 0-2. Working with a little more tempo now.
Say that's like a.
It's almost like you wanted to. I think a slider maybe was the.
I don't know if he's throwing a cutter. I don't know. He's with him, it's tough to tell.
Right at Lindor, who backs up and throws out Victor. 12 pitches in the 6th, 11 of them for strikes. Salazar sets him down 1-2-3.
Well, enjoy the family deck and expanded kids clubhouse at KeyBank Kids Fun Day. That'll take place Sunday at Progressive Field, plus kids run the bases after the ball game, presented by Cleveland Clinic's Children's. Visit Indians.com for the complete details.
Bottom of the sixth, 1-1 our score. Down low, ball one.
Well, the Indians' run came on Almonte's fourth homer of the year. It was on a splitter back in the fourth inning with one out.
Oh, perfect drag bunt. Well executed, and the Indians get their leadoff man aboard.
Again, he gets a bunt and a homer in the same game.
We've seen him do that. Not the bunt and the homer thing. We have seen him do that, but the drag bunt, he's just very effective at bunting the baseball.
It's really, he's pretty darn good at it, too. It's going to be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. A lot of times, look at it, it sort of froze Simon, and by the time it gets by him, Cabrera, there's nothing you can do with it. That's just a perfect drag bunt. It's a lost art, I think, nowadays, but he does it very well. And he tries it a lot, too. So a good way to start this sixth inning.
Well, let's see if Yan Gomes can keep the train moving. He hammers the ball to deep left field. Back is Davis, who makes the catch. Let's go down to Andrea's more on the art of bunting with Almonte.
Yeah, when we were in Toronto and we were getting ready to go against R.A. Dickey, I talked to Almonte. And remember I told you guys, he goes, I'm going to just bunt 3 times and not try to swing against that guy. But he says, look, they try to manipulate the defense against me with how they're pitching to me. He goes, the one thing I try to do is manipulate how they're going to have to play me. He goes, when they play me for power, I'm going to bunt. And vice versa. He likes using the bunt as a weapon to set the defense up because he feels like that's what they do to him when they pitch to him.
I wish he would rub off on the guy that's walking into the box right now. You know, where you can bring the corner infielders in when you can bunt, and when you prove you can bunt for base hits, and Almonte has done that. He's a pretty darn good bunter. They will have to, that'll open up some holes for you.
And here's the thing. He's proved that he's not just a one-trick pony because he's got 5 triples, 5 doubles, 4 home runs. So
right. He can drive the ball.
Jose Ramirez only has to look at him and say, they're not asking him to only bunt, but just incorporate it more into your game.
Right. Make it part of your game. Utilize your wheels, the legs. Guys that can run, I'll tell you, it'll also get you more fastballs, too. But guys at the bottom part of the lineup, when they can put some pressure on the defense, it makes it fun for the top 3 that can swing the bat a little bit, too. You keep pressure on defenses when you do things like that.
Speaking of pressure, I was just about to say, let's see if Almonte maybe tries to take off here. Maybe force the issue a little bit.
Simon's about 1-2 to home plate with his delivery. McCann's a pretty good throw guy, so you want to get a good job, but you have 1 out, so you don't want to get thrown out here. You want to just see if you can get it. That would be fine.
He takes off. Pitches in the dirt.
Nice pitch.
And the throw is offline. A little bit high. Almonte able to grab the bag as he almost overslid. His 4th steal of the year. And now he's in scoring position with 1 out.
He picked the right pitch to go on, too. A ball in the dirt. And McCann, the only thing he could do was throw from his crouch. So he wasn't accurate. So give Almonte the stolen base. That's number 4. He hasn't been caught yet. He looks back. So now he has a homer, a bunt, and a stolen base. So right here, you can manufacture a run with a base hit.
Well, and Ramirez now has himself in a good spot, 2-0. Big hole on the left side of the infield. Pitch was up and away, 3-0. Ball 4. A 4-pitch walk for Ramirez. So 2 on, 1 out, and Giovanni Urshela coming up. Brad Ausmus looking on. He's watching Alfredo Simon do what he's done all year, at least against the Indians, and that's pitched very well. But he's also watched Danny Salazar shut down the Tigers, something that he could not do when he faced them 5 days ago. Now we'll see if the Indians can break through and take the lead.
Well, Almonte's been on twice. Ramirez has been on twice, and so is Urshela. So you're looking at 6, 8, and 9. Those guys have done a nice job against him, made him work very hard.
Eventually, he's got to throw a pitch here. Urshela doubled in the third. He was plunked on the elbow, or on the forearm, rather, in the 4th inning. And after all that, that's crazy, isn't it?
Well, obviously, he wants to throw a pitch, and they're not on the same page. Simon wants to try and get that ground ball and turn a double play. McCann's calling, and they're just not in sync.
Jeff Jones, pitching coach, looking on, wondering what in the world's going on here. Misses up high, ball 1. Giovanni Urshela. That double in the third, just his 6th on the year. And a fastball in the dirt. That's a nice stop by McCann. Otherwise, you've got 2nd and 3rd with 1 out.
You'll see that pick. That's a backhanded pick. Not an easy one to make right there. Keeps the runners at 1st and 2nd. But he's struggling to throw strikes. Don't help him out. He's already walked 3.
Oh, man, Urshela had his pitch to hit, and he might have just overswung a little bit. He was trying to hit a 3-pointer.
Yeah. Good swing, but you foul it straight back. He got the 2-0 fastball.
So with 2 on, 1 out, a 2-ball, 1-strike count. Urshela pops it foul out of play. Abraham Almonte began this inning with a drag bunt single, stole 2nd. Jose Ramirez walked. And now a lengthy at bat for Giovanni Urshela. He hammers this one up the alley in left center field. That'll go to the wall. Indians take the lead as Almonte scores. Here comes Ramirez. He scores 2. Gio delivers in the clutch with a 2-run double. 3-1 Cleveland.
Yeah, he picked on that splitter that stayed up, and it was a nice job by Urshela to find the gap. Out in left center, it's going to be Yellowwood bringing the lumber. The splitter, there it goes, and off and running. Good speed on the bases. Almonte scores easily, and in comes Ramirez right behind him. Helmet flying off at third base. So it's a 3-1 ball game.
Oh, it was a lengthy at bat for Urshela just because it took Simon and McCann a long time during the at bat to get on the same page.
Well, he's been struggling in the inning throwing strikes, so I don't know what the problem was, but it seemed like when he was coming out of the stretch, he was having a lot more problems. And the bottom part of this lineup, Almonte, Ramirez, Urshela have done the damage. Urshela, 2 doubles, 2 ribbies. Ramirez a double, a walk, a run scored. Almonte the home run, the bunt single, and the stolen base. A couple of runs scored.
Kipnis fouls one back. You saw Ian Kroll, a left-hander, getting loose for Detroit. Kipnis gets a piece of it. It's 0-2. How big is that run at second base? Well, when the Indians score 4 or more, they're 52-18. That's a magic number for a lot of teams. But it all started with a bunt single by Almonte.
Yes, it did. To get it started, a stolen base, gets himself into scoring position, and a walk. And some, control issues for Simon.
Sandy Alomar, he's not an infielder. He's a catcher. He needs the gear. He's not going to get down and block. He's got a watch in his
He's taking
hand.
some abuse, too. I'll bet Cabrera's saying something to him.
The 0-2, and he strikes him out. 2 down. The Fox Networks bring you a full day of college football on Saturday. It all starts with K-State battling Texas San Antonio on FSM1, and followed by Stephen F. Austin taking on TCU. Then Iowa and Iowa State battle on Fox, followed by Stanford, Central Florida on FS1. That's a lot of football. Francisco Lindor pulls it foul, first base side. Lindor struck out, but reached on a wild pitch in the first. Laid down a sacrifice bunt in the third, and then grounded out to short in the fifth. To Cabrera, he'll take it to the bag and end the inning. But Giovanni Urshela breaks it open with a 2-run double, and the Indians lead it 3-1.
Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable.
Seventh inning, 3-1 Indians. Danny Salazar gave up a run back in the second inning. Since then, he's only allowed 2 hits, and he has struck out 3. He's got the 6, 7, and 8 hitters due up here. Castellanos, McCann, Romine. Indians bullpen just now starting to get loose, and I believe it's Kyle Crockett, the left-hander, who's up. Only one left-handed hitter in the lineup for Detroit, and that's the number 9 hitter, Anthony Gose. Now the 1-1. Right back. Salazar trying to pitch his way to his 13th win of the season and get the Indians to within 1 game of the 500 mark. The 1-2. Hit on the ground to third. Urshela. Perfect throw. 1 away. Our AT&T Uverse rewind. Rick, it hasn't been the overpowering blow you away Danny Salazar, but he's pitched well.
It's been a workmanlike night for Danny because he has 3 strikeouts and he's been battling. He hasn't had his good off-speed stuff. His secondary pitches haven't been there, but they've been there enough to take the Tiger hitters off his heater. You know, they fouled him up. Remember, they really made him work early in the game, fouling off a lot of pitches, but he's been able to work his way through. So he and Gomes have done a nice job together. With his 3 strikeouts tonight, gives him 176 on the year, so that's 3 starters now with over 175 strikeouts. The only other time that was accomplished back in 2000 by Dave Burba, Bartolo Colon, and Chuck Finley.
Fair over the bag at third, down into the left field corner. McCann on his way to second. Oh, he'll have to jam on the brakes and go back because Brantley got to it quickly and fired a perfect strike to Lindor. And McCann's
right there,
a catcher, doesn't run great.
But the game dictated why he didn't go to second. You're down 2 runs. You're in the 7th inning. But I'll tell you what, that first at-bat for McCann set the night for him against Salazar, where he had about 11 pitch at bat. Michael, you get to it early, and they expect you to make a great throw, so he had to hold up. You know, like you say, he's not blessed with great speed. He's a catcher, but you can't take a risk of getting thrown out when you're down 2. So he is 2 for 2 tonight, and he reached on a walk. All the Tiger hits are singles tonight.
In the dirt.
Nice pick.
Rick, Danny Salazar made 38 pitches in the first 2 innings of this game, and only 50 since then.
Yeah, they were just fouling him off, and he wasn't locked in, and he was just throwing that fastball.
Bounce slowly. Lindor can't get a grip on it.
He was going to have a tough time throwing him out because Gio cut in front of him. And when he gets the ball, he just didn't get it in the transfer. It'll go as a base hit. Although McCann had to stay. You watch, Gio comes over to try and cut it off. Now watch in the transfer. It's almost like he didn't have a good grip. So he couldn't make the throw. So he wisely holds on to it. So an infield single here. That'll give him runners at first and second.
And with 1 out, Anthony Gose, the batter. Goes drove in the Tigers' only run in the second. Missed inside, ball one.
There you go. That second inning when they scored their run, that was the big pitch inning for him. And now it's up to him to try and get out of this. Love to get a ground ball. Love to get a double play.
Out of play. Randy Salazar with a 1-ball, 1-strike count on goes. Delivers in the dirt.
This is a right here, a turning point in this game for Salazar, this hitter. And you look at their bottom pot. McCann, 2 for 2. Romine had a couple of hits. Gose has 1. He's 1 for 2. So it's been the bottom part of the lineups in this ball game.
Missed outside, 3-1. The pitch. And it's ball 4. Well, he's worked himself into a real mess now. Bases loaded, 1 out, top of the order coming up.
Third walk for Danny, and out comes Tito. I figured that was going to be his chance to get out of it. He couldn't do it. He walked the number 9 hitter, so he's going to go to his bullpen. It looks like Brian Shaw is going to be coming in.
So Danny goes 6 1/3. Gives up 1 run on 7 hits, walks 3, strikes out 3. But he's responsible for all 3 on base. We've got a timeout. It's the Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen. And Brian Shaw is coming on when we come back.
At just $15 for kids 12 and under with the purchase of an adult ticket. Kids tickets are located in the family deck here at Progressive Field. Log on to Indians.com/kids tickets today.
Well, Brian Shaw.
There's a lot of people on that infield right about now.
A lot of traffic.
Yes, there is.
Well, you've got Brian McCann as at third, Andrew Romine is at second, Anthony Gose at first. 1 out. Rajay Davis, who can really pick him up and put him down, is at the plate. And Brian Shaw is in a spot that I can't think there's a reliever who enjoys coming into a bases-loaded situation. You might like the challenge, but can't be a lot of fun.
Yeah, right here, you just try to minimize
man.
it.
To the backstop.
Into the seats.
No, it came back.
Oh, boy.
But now it's a one-run game on one pitch.
Well, that's not the way you want to start it out. So on the wild pitch, everybody moves up. The double play is out of order. And he cuts that one, and Gomes really had no chance. And you can see how high it kicked off that base down there as McCann comes in to score. So now the middle infielders will go back.
And Davis was teeing off, fouls
Pretty
it
good
back.
swing there.
So the Indians scored 2 to take the lead, and now Detroit comes right back with a run. And they've got second and third with still only one out. Missed outside. 2 balls and a strike. Out of play.
Right before that pitch, I saw Almonte shooting over to right center field. He went from the left field side of the second base over.
I did too, Rick, because I noticed that Michael Brantley's way off the line.
Yeah.
And I thought it was odd that Almonte was cheating over that way because, you know, Michael covers a lot of ground over there. Now he's going back to right center again.
He's looking for that cutter or something away, and Davis is trying to probably just take it that way. Trying to stay on the baseball.
Pops him up. This could be huge.
Pitch. Yes, it is.
Ramirez makes the grab. 2 down.
You know, it's almost like a backup slider here that stayed right there. He was waiting for it to break out over the plate, and it never did. Sort of jammed him, and he popped it up to the infield. So now a chance to get out of it for Shaw, which would be a great job after the first pitch was a wild pitch and they scored a run.
Ian Kinsler 0 for 3 on the night. All 3 times he's flied out to right field. He's going to flare one into right. That's a base hit. Tying run scores. Here comes the go-ahead run. Throw to the plate. Safe is the call.
I don't think so. I think they got him. I think Gomes tagged his foot before he touched home plate. We will see. I bet they challenge it. Just from the naked eye, I thought Gomes might have got him. Chisenhall, another good throw. Comes in. Let's see. Here comes.
He never got the plate.
No, I saw him get the front foot.
I thought the lead foot got the plate. I don't think his lead foot ever touched home plate.
No, it didn't. Gomes got the glove. It goes up in the air. He knocks it off the plate. That was another very good throw by Chisenhall. How about that? That'll be a second assist in the game. Look at that. There it goes. He knocked it off the dish.
Well, that's a huge play
because
that's going to keep the game tied instead of Detroit taking the lead.
That was a nice play. Gomes has had 2 really good plays at home plate tonight.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a teamwork thing. Lonnie makes a great throw, but Gomes on both plays did an outstanding job.
He ended up, in essence, blocking the plate with his glove right there. So he would have to think this one has to be overturned as well. Look at the guys are starting to walk off. Well, let's just wait a second, boys.
That's pretty good.
I know.
They're all coming off.
Yes, they are. And the Tigers are coming out. But he does. He stopped the front foot from getting to home plate. Great tag.
Poor Ed Hickok's going to be 0 for 2.
It doesn't. That's exactly right. But you know what? They were both bang plays. Both of them were, And
again, Rick, this is why everybody clamored for instant replay. We have the technology. We can get it right. Let's get the calls right. Otherwise, the complexion of this game is completely
totally different.
Because the Tigers would have had another run in. They'd have still been batting back in the second.
Right. They would have had at least 2 more runs on the board. But I don't know what's taking so long.
Here's the decision. Dana DeMuth, crew chief, on your left.
Get it up. He's out. Thank you.
The Indians win another challenge. Twice on plays at the plate. And we are tied at 3 as we've reached the 7th inning stretch. Brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Well, brand new ball game, 3-3, bottom of the 7th inning. And for the Indians, it's the heart of the order: Michael Brantley, Carlos Santana, and Lonnie Chisenhall. And Alfredo Simon, who was sort of limping through that 6th inning, but he got through it, keeping Urshela at second base from scoring and doing any further damage, and he comes back out here to pitch in the 7th inning.
Remember, he had issues out of the stretch last inning. Try and get him out of the stretch early. Almonte did it last inning on the bunt single.
Brantley liftoff, deep center field, back goes, goodbye! How Michael Brantley puts the Indians right back in front, 4-3.
Well, that didn't take long.
His 14th home run of the season, RBI number 79. Second solo homer of the night for Cleveland. And just like that, they're in front 4-3.
Well, Brantley has had great numbers against Simon. And, boy, he got in on him a couple times tonight, but not this time. Brantley got back and got even. And with one swing of the bat, the Indians go back on top, 4-3. That's always nice. See, Callaway was on the phone to that bullpen as well.
Santana doesn't like the call. That off-speed pitch floating up toward the top of the zone. And a big bouncer, room service hop for Kinsler. One down, and up comes Lonnie Chisenhall. Lonnie has had quite a night defensively.
Boy, has he ever. Had a terrific night.
He's made 2 great running catches and 2 outstanding throws to the plate.
Well, you wouldn't be able to tell it. He hasn't played right field for very long, the way he has played it tonight.
Blooped towards center. Now he's got himself a base hit to go along with everything else. 1 out base runner for the Tribe here in the 7th.
Well, you were talking about the defense. That was back in the 2nd inning. It was called safe, but he was out. That was the good play. And then this throw right here, Gomes puts a nice tag on, stop that foot from getting to the plate. I mean, how many times you see 2 plays like that, the same guy's making the throw both times? That's a rarity. And both of them were overturned. Both called safe. They both turned out to be out.
Abraham Almonte lifts one high in the air to left field. Davis, though, will make the catch. 2 down. As promised earlier, it's Miller time. Brought to you by Miller Lite. Abraham Almonte back in the 4th inning, went deep for a home run. Next time up, he plays small ball.
Why not? That's a beautiful. Isn't that great? A bunt like that, get something going. He was leading the inning off. Perfect time to do it. He ended up stealing a base and coming around to score.
Outside corner. Gomes hit the ball hard his last time up, but it was a line drive right at Davis, the left fielder. Chased one up high, 0-2.
Yeah, that's not Jan's strength right there, that pitch above the belt. He likes it down, and he knows better.
Runner goes, pitches up high, the throw, not in time. Lonnie Chisenhall has his 3rd stolen base on the year.
Good jump on the 0-2 pitch, just take off. Why not? Get yourself in scoring position, goes head first and just does beat the tag.
Gomes 0 for 3 on the night. With 2 down, a runner at second base. 1-2 pitch. Hammered, left field, down the line, off the wall, fair ball. Scoring is Chisenhall. Gomes with a clutch 2-out RBI single off the wall. Almost hit it out of here. Kept it fair, and the Indians' lead is now 5-3.
I think he thought it was out of here because he was halfway to first base. Either that or he thought it was foul. But there's a pitch down. You see, he's just walking out of there, and then he realized, oh, it may stay fair. And it did stay fair. It's high up off the wall, right on the line. So that'll give him an insurance run. That'll chase Simon from the ball game. And they make it a 5-3 game.
Alfredo Simon exits to the Tiger dugout. The Indians come roaring back here in the bottom of the 7th with 2 runs to regain the lead. 5-3 Cleveland. We've got a timeout for a pitching change. Well, the Indians came out here in the 7th, and Michael Brantley started it off with a home run to put the Tribe right back in front, 4-3. And then after Santana grounded out, Lonnie Chisenhall singled, stole second, and comes home on the 2-out RBI hit by Yan Gomes that somehow stayed fair just inside the line.
Yes, it did.
He's had a lot of big clutch hits. He hasn't had overall the kind of year maybe that he would like.
Well, they come back, and when the Tigers put 2 on the board, they responded. And that's what I thought would be key with the Tigers. If they score, you got to come right back and get them, and the Indians do that inning.
Ramirez bounces it to Kinsler. That'll end the inning. But a flurry by the Tribe here in the 7th. Brantley going deep. Indians back in front.
By authority of the Cleveland Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians.
Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio, Alan Jensen will have the highlights. Talk about some of the key points in tonight's ball game, and boy, are there a lot of them to talk about. This one's had a few twists and turns.
Yeah, a lot of it coming late.
Miguel Cabrera, 1 out of 3 on the night with a single back in the first. Low 1-1. Pulls it to third. Urshela is right there. Lob toss to first. 1 away. MLB on Fox returns Saturday as the AL East leading Blue Jays take on the Yankees. Then it's the Tigers and the Indians squaring off in a game you can only see on Fox Sports 1. Coverage begins at 12:30 Eastern on Fox and 7 Eastern on Fox Sports 1. It all streams live on Fox Sports Go. I can't think of a guy, Rick, that I've seen have the perfect touch on that lob toss across from third base like Urshela. He's like a quarterback throwing a little fade route in the end zone. He puts just enough air under it.
He knew who was running. When you see the guy that's about a third of the way there, you can just, you can save some.
But I guess my point is, so many times we see guys try to change their throwing style, and that's when things go haywire.
Yeah.
He can hump up and throw a laser if he needs to, but he's got a nice little feather touch.
Yes, he does. He's a good third baseman. He is solid defensively, that's for sure. Seems like every throw is right there.
Yeah.
Whether it is hard or soft, and everything he touches, it's.
I mean, at most we've seen Carlos Santana have to reach up on the bag, maybe go on a tiptoe a time or two, but
very accurate.
Way outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Checked his swing and fouled it off. Ryan Shaw with a 2-2. And he got in on him, but J.D. Martinez got enough of it to get a base hit. One on, one out.
Well, he got in on him is right. Cost him a bat, but good hitters, they find a way to get hits. Martinez does. That's 9 hits now for both teams. The Indians have 2 more runs, though. 5-3.
Talked about this last night. Cody Allen, new career high 30 saves. He already leads the league with 7 multi-inning saves, and he is up in the bullpen right now. Both he and Zach McAllister are ready if needed. My guess is, Rick, one more base runner and we see Cody Allen.
I would not disagree with that. You want to get the first game of a 4-game series always. He wouldn't be up if he's not coming into the ball game.
Hits are even at 9 apiece. Uh-oh.
rocketed it into right field. Chisenhall cuts it off, and Martinez stops at second. So J.D. Martinez at second base. Victor Martinez with his first hit of the night is at first. 2 on, only 1 out. And Nick Castellanos coming up. In the last 4 games, Cody Allen has pitched 3 times for a total of 43 pitches. So this is one of the situations you're weighing not only today, but...
Well, there's the phone ringing. There's Beret answering.
But he wouldn't be up if they hadn't thought about all this ahead of time.
Okay, well, Shaw's in for this hitter.
You got Castellanos, then McCann. Off the end of the bat foul. This game was 1-1 until the bottom of the 6th. And the Indians scored 2 in the bottom of the 6th. Tigers scored 2 in the top of the 7th. Indians scored 2 in the bottom of the 7th. Now the Tigers threatening here in the 8th. Hit well. Deep left. Back is Brantley looking up. It's going to be off the wall. That's going to score J.D. Martinez. Victor Martinez goes into third base. And Brian Shaw has given up 3 consecutive hits in the 8th. And it's a 1-run game.
I'll tell you one thing. It was a good thing we had Victor Martinez on first base. Because if anybody with average speed would have read that ball coming off the wall, they would have scored. It was a breaking ball, and it goes off the wall. It comes down, and you can see Brantley barehands it. There's Victor, but I mean, he can't run. They score easily. Well, maybe not. Maybe not, but it is a double by Castellanos, and Shaw is done.
So we've got a timeout. The question is, who did Terry call for? Is it Cody or is it McAllister? With 2nd and 3rd and 1 out, we'll see who emerges from the door frame. It's Cody Allen looking for another multi-inning save when we come back. And he's got him set up 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. Tigers down a run. Cody Allen into the ballgame. This will be his 61st appearance of the year.
Well, he's been getting some work recently, and boy, he's in a pickle right now. 1 out, second and third. McCann, who's had a really nice evening, 2 for 2. And he walked the first time up, and you can see the workload for Allen. Sunday, Monday, off Tuesday, and he worked Wednesday.
Brian McCann walked and scored in the second. He singled in the fifth. He singled and scored in the seventh. And now he's up here in the eighth. The infield is halfway.
It's
in.
halfway,
Yeah.
but you look over at third base, you got Victor Martinez. You can lay back a little bit. You don't have to come in.
Upstairs. Time called. Two and 0. For Cody Allen, he told me the other day when I was asking him about the multi-inning save situation, it's not right now. It's not. This isn't the situation where it affects him. He said I feel it. It's the next day you feel it.
Yeah.
It's just something you're not used to doing a lot.
You go up there and when you got to get it geared up, not once but twice, getting out of the first inning, and then ramping it up and having to go back out there again, just doesn't happen a lot. It's a pretty good 2-0 heater right there to get it by him, 95.
Now the set on the 2-1. Right back to, just same pitch. Rick said, okay, not messing around, let's go. And the Express right by him, 2-2.
Boy, you could use the punch out right here.
Now the 2-2 offering. Swung out and missed. He fired it right by him. 3 straight heaters, 2 down.
Talk about challenging him. Boy, oh boy, did he ever. This one was down. He went up, up, down with the 3 fastballs in a row. And I got to tell you something, boy, he says, let's go. He needed the punch out. He got it. That was challenge right there. That's out number 2.
Now Andrew Romine, 2 hits on the night, scored a run. Just missed low, 2-0.
It's a couple of pretty good pitches, just a little bit off. This one down in the strike zone. Not a bad pitch, not a good one to swing at if you're the hitter, especially when it's a 1-0 count.
Slaps it by Lindor. Martinez scores. Castellanos stops at third. And we are tied at 5.
What a big hit there by Romine. That's his third hit, and he went the other way with it. So back comes Detroit. Castellanos couldn't go. With 2 outs, you figure, okay, I got to send my guy. Most times the third base coach is going to send him. That ball wasn't hit hard. You can see that Lindor upset with himself, but in comes Michael Brantley, and he's got to hold him. Speed is not Detroit's thing right there. You'd see most third base coaches would send him. They just could not do it.
So Anthony goes, the batter, with first and third and 2 out. Out of play. Now Cody Allen came into a tough spot. Got the second out of the inning. But Romine able to punch one through, and the Tigers respond once again.
That was really good hitting there by Romine. Had the count in his favor, and he didn't try to do much. Went the other way with it.
Now the 0-1. Good breaking ball gets him ahead of the count 0-2. Wow, he got in on him and broke his bat.
Yes, he did.
And he'll get a new piece of rubber, but he stays alive. That can't feel good on your hands.
No, that's hands. That's off his thumbs. Detroit 4 hits in the inning. Well, you talk about a game of responses. As you said, 1-1 in the 6th inning. The Indians come back and scored 2. Detroit scored 2 after they did. Then the Indians come right back, and then Detroit goes back. It's like a game of ping pong.
And the Indians will be coming up in the bottom of the 8th, looking to respond once again. But first, Cody Allen has to get out of this top half of the 8th inning. His 0-2 pitch to Goes.
Yes,
He did. Says home plate umpire Ed Hickox, and the inning is over. But the Tigers have tied the game again. 5-5, middle of the 8th.
With a good night tonight on the breaking ball. His first at bat, hits it off the wall, goes for a double. Second time up, or excuse me, his third time up, plugs the gap on a splitter. 2 RBIs, drove him in. Give him the lead, and he's pumped up about it. He's had a good night. He was hit one time as well.
Well, let's see if he can get the crowd jumping here in the bottom of the 8th. Fouls this back out of play. Popped to shallow center. Out goes Romine. And that's out number 1. Let's go down to Andre. Jason Kipnis in the DH spot. You know, Terry Francona's done that a little bit here, moving him into the DH role. Sometimes you see Michael Brantley do. Is this just an ongoing thing?
It is an ongoing thing. There's nothing wrong with him physically. Kip, to be honest, hates DHing. He doesn't like it, and Tito knows that. But he goes, basically for the rest of the season, this is what he's going to do with both he and Michael Brantley. He said, look, the team got in late last night. He goes, anytime I can take advantage of getting them some rest, I'm going to do it. I think also he likes the defense that he has when he can play Jose Ramirez at second base. So that's played into it as well. He says Kip doesn't like it, but he goes, I want to take care of him. He plays almost every day. He goes, and this is the best way I can do it, and I'm going to do it with Michael Brantley when I have the opportunity as well.
All right, thanks, Andre. We've got a timeout for another pitching change. Bottom of the 8th, 1 out. Blaine Hardy, left-hander, coming in for Detroit. He'll face Jason Kipnis, who's 0 for 3 tonight. And takes a strike. To center. Goes. Has it. 2 down. Francisco Lindor is 0 for 2 tonight. I beg your pardon, he's 0 for 3. Outside corner, a strike called. Down in the dirt. Sails high, 2 balls and a strike. And he goes off speed on him. And it's 2-2. Full count. Blaine Hardy ready. Payoff pitch. And it's ball 4. So Lindor reaches to keep the inning alive. You know, it was only last inning that Michael Brantley hit this home run. It only seems like it was a long time ago.
You're right. He led that inning off, and he gave him the lead at that point in time. He ended up adding another one after that. So he's hitting again here in the 8th. Lindor on first base.
4 of Michael's 14. 4 of his 14 home runs this year have come against left-handed pitching. But with Lindor, you don't necessarily need a home run to take the lead here. An extra base hit would do the trick. Out of play. Keeping an eye on Francisco. He has stolen 7 out of 9 on the year. Spun him out of the way. He did not go, says third base umpire Mike Estabrook on the appeal. And it's a 2-1 count. Well, with all the action we've had, this game the pace has completely changed.
Well, it usually does. The first, 5 innings, 6 innings, 1-1, and then all the scoring started. You get to those bullpens and everything seems to slow down.
Two balls, 1 strike. Hardy has to keep Lindor close, but he's also got to make sure he doesn't fall asleep pitching to Brantley. And there's a good off-speed pitch to even the count. "12 pitches, 6 balls, 6 strikes. Missed inside, a full count. Lindor will be off once Hardy fires it toward home plate.
See if Brantley can find a gap here.
Hardy takes too much time and Brantley steps out. It seems like, Rick, everything in the at-bat for Hardy, most of it anyway, has been in to Brantley. And that's almost like the Tigers' game plan tonight. But you miss in there,
yeah,
and he'll do what he did in the seventh inning.
If you go down and in, he'll hurt you.
Lindor takes off. Brantley drives it deep right field. He's done it again. Second inning in a row. Michael Brantley puts the Indians back on top.
I think he missed in there. I'll tell you what, boy, Michael was waiting for it.
Well, we just got done talking about it. They just kept trying to pound him inside, off speed inside. But as you said, you miss in there.
I want to see if it's down and see him because he just launches that ball. That was actually right down the middle. And it came with a fastball, and he was waiting for it. So the 2-out walk. And give Brantley a chance, and he makes it a 7-5 ball game. How about that?
Michael Brantley, second consecutive home run in the game, fourth multi-homer game on the year, and his fifth home run this year against left-handed pitching. Indians up 7-5. And so, Rick, I'm thinking out loud, Cody Allen's got to come back and finish this game now probably, huh?
Well,
what do you make, 10, 11, 12 pitches? Somewhere around on there?
He had 2 strikeouts, so 12 pitches.
Okay.
Well, if he brought him in the 8th and now you take the lead, I would say yes, I agree with you.
Well, the suspense will be over shortly. We'll go to the 9th. Michael Brantley. Big ball. Indians on top 7-5.
His second home run of the night comes in the 8th inning. Jensen Mattenrick called it. You can't go inside of him twice, but Detroit did.
Yeah, down and in's where balls go to die. But now Cody Allen, huge 9th inning here. He's been sitting for a little bit. Got to make sure you get that first out, throw strike 1.
All right, join us after the game. Indians Live brought to you by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Back upstairs for the 9th. Here are Matt and Rick, fellas.
All right, thanks, guys. Cody Allen ended up with a couple of strikeouts. He only faced the 3 batters. He came into a hornet's nest. And Andrew Romine got the base hit that tied the game. And so he'll go to work against the top of the order, Rajai Davis, to lead it off. 7-5 Cleveland. So Cody, who suffered a tough luck blown save, now has a chance to get the win.
How about the response runs? That's about the.
This has been fun to watch.
This has been the,
from both sides.
The game of response. Yeah.
I give the Tigers credit. I mean, they don't have really anything to play for except that spoiler role, but they've continued to come back. But Michael Brantley just refuses to let the Indians go quietly tonight. And Davis is retired, one away. Looking back at our keys to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Well, the Indians, with that home run by Brantley, got their 10th hit of the night. That's something.
Oh, yes, they did.
13 straight home games. They've matched the
that
record from 1936. And Danny, I thought Danny Salazar pitched really well. He just ran out of gas, I think, in that 7th inning. He went 6 1/3, charged with 3 runs on the night. Fly ball center field, Almonte coming in. He's there. He's got it 2 away. Fastball a little bit low to Miguel Cabrera. Fastball missed inside. By the way, the guys at Elias, the stats gurus, they overruled Popper tonight.
They did?
And they gave Lonnie Chisenhall credit for an assist on that wild, 2 assists on that wild play at the plate. So he's the first outfielder since Mark Teahen at Kansas City back in 2007 to have 3 assists in the same game. And he's the first Indians outfielder with 3 assists in a game since Richard Eugene Manning back on May 21st, 1981.
Really?
Against Seattle. You and the Chiz. Swing and a miss by Cabrera.
Archie Chisenhall. Here we go. Attaboy, Lonnie.
You guys are joined at the hip in the Indians record book. Right now, Cody Allen trying to finish it off. He doesn't care about the blown save. It's the W that matters most right now for Cody and the team. The 2-2. Oh, he rung him up with a breaking ball, and the game is over. A 1-2-3 ninth for Cody Allen, who ends up as the winning pitcher here tonight. The Indians take the series opener by a final of 7-5, and they're within 1 game now of the 500 mark at 69-70 on the year.